Hey Travis, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay, good. Sorry. Um, just kind of just to start out, what was kind of the thought process behind the trade and letting Rondo go and bringing in Lou?
Well, we certainly didn't go into the week with plans of trading Doe, but as dialogue took place throughout the course of the week, um, we felt like we were getting a pretty good deal there. Obviously, we're very appreciative of everything Rondo gave us while he was here, and we were certainly comfortable moving forward with him. But being able to pick up a couple future draft picks and being able to get a player back the quality that we were able to. In lieu, it kind of made sense for us. One of the things that we're all aware of is when Trey's gone to the bench, we've struggled a little bit offensively, and so the hope is bringing in Will, as everyone knows, he's one of, if not the best bench scorer in the history of the league. 3 times six man of the year. So we felt like that addressed one of the things that we saw that well, we could fix moving forward, and then the icing on the cake, so to speak, was the draft assets moving forward.
Chris Kirschner.
What would you say your main objective was going into the trade deadline?
Honestly, going into it, and then I was telling everybody, around the league, we didn't really want to go in there and mess things up. Obviously the teams getting healthy have been playing better. Sometimes the best moves you make are the ones you don't do. So if we had the opportunity to address the bench a little bit, scoring punch, we were going to do it, and then obviously that played out for us. And then also, like I said, getting the future assets. You can never go wrong collecting those.
Terrell Thomas.
Good afternoon, Travis. What is your expectation now? And adding Lou Williams, as you mentioned, someone who can get the ball in the basket at a high level. What is your expectations, and what did you see in him to bring him into this roster?
Well, I think just as you said, where we've kind of struggled is, those times when Trey's been off the floor. So having somebody that can come on the floor that, can run pick and roll and score and pick and roll, I think is going to be a big boost for us. As far as, what we're hoping for, as I said, way back in the preseason with you guys, our main objective this year was to have games count the last month of the season. And we've put ourselves in that position. So to be able to have our guys, especially our young guys, go out there and play in meaningful games, and hopefully playoff games, to have that experience, that's what we're hoping for, and we feel like we've put ourselves in that position. So we wanted to try to maximize as we could.
Thank you.
Sarah.
So just to follow up, do you see Lou kind of being that kind of go-to backup point guard that can kind of get the second unit going? And also, what are you looking forward to about kind of the leadership that he can bring? I know you're losing a leader in Rondo and kind of a veteran presence, but you're also kind of bringing in someone who could maybe step into those shoes.
Yeah, I think the one of the nice things about Lou is, he's a combo guard. He can play on the ball, he can play off the ball, certainly can run offense. I personally, have only spoken to him once last night, so I don't know him, but a lot of the folks that have worked here were here when he was there, or when he was here earlier. I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with them, but I've never heard anyone have anything negative to say about Lou as a person. From all of the intel, he's very straightforward in the locker room, and is very black and white and direct about how he sees things, and those are positives. So we're excited to add him to the roster.
Charles Odom.
You mentioned your team getting healthy and playing better. How much did these last 10 games factor into your trade deadline decisions, including how receptive you might have been to interest in John Collins?
Yeah, there's certainly no doubt. Playing better, you don't feel the need to shake it up as much. As to John, there's been a ton of speculation out there all along about John since the negotiations didn't get finalized last year on his extension. But we've been steadfast that we view John as a big part of our team, a big part of our franchise, and we like all our players, we do our due diligence to see what their value is. But I don't think that you've ever heard myself or anybody else in the Hawks organization say that we don't have great place, great value on John. We do. So we've never had any serious conversations with any team about moving him this year.
Chris.
Obviously, without Rondo, there's a hole at backup point guard. What is the plan there now? Do you see Lou being in that spot, or is it someone else on the roster going to be the primary backup?
No, I think Lou can play there. I think you'll see a lot of instances where he'll be out there with Bogey or Kevin, and those guys all have the ability. But I think Lou kind of has that right now. I haven't. Last night, talking with Coach, I'm not sure which way they're going to go tonight since, Lou won't be available tonight. He's got to go through all the paperwork that he has to do to finalize the trade. But, I think that, he'll probably have the vast majority of those duties, but ultimately that's, Coach Mack's call too.
Terrell.
Travis, you kind of answered my question a little bit with your statement a moment ago saying that Lou won't be available this evening. But do you have a timetable on when you believe he will join the team? And do you believe that may be during the West Coast trip?
Yeah, no, I definitely think it's going to be during the West Coast trip. One of the tricky things with all the COVID protocols we have is, trying to get a private flight out of San Antonio last night to get him back to California, and then maintaining all the daily testing requirements while doing the physical and all the clean pathways you have to have in and out of that. So we definitely anticipate that he's going to join us. It's just what exact game right now I'm not 100% sure as we work through all this with the league.
Thank you.
Terrence Moore.
Travis, are you surprised how well the team has responded to Nate as a head coach, or is this something that you expected?
I wouldn't say that I necessarily expected it. I think, what you've seen our guys is, we win a couple close games early right after Coach Mack took over, and, they start to gain confidence. And I think that's, one of the big things that we've seen from our group is there's a little more confidence in their abilities to close out those games.
Sarah Spencer.
Hey, Travis, I know you said you only had, I think, kind of one conversation with Lou, but just how did that conversation go? What did you guys kind of chat about?
No, just, telling him that we're excited to have him, and, we're going to work forward to, get him to the team as soon as possible. They're not long conversations by any stretch, but, that was it.
Chris.
Was it at all important to you in the Rondo trade to get off his salary in order to have more flexibility this coming off season?
No, not at all. That wasn't a factor in this at all. To be honest with you, we're going to be in a situation next year with our cap holds that we're not really going to be a space team anyway. So, creating cap space, it wasn't a factor in this.
Kelly. Oh, maybe Kelly does not have a question. We will go.
Oh, sorry, I do. I'm sorry. I muted myself. Travis, you'd think I'd have this down by now, but I know you can't always take hearsay into account, but I think there was a quote by Lou a while back saying if he were traded again, he'd consider retirement. Did you ask him about that at all? And I know we'll get the chance to talk to him down the road, but why do you think he would have reconsidered in order to come back to Atlanta?
Yeah, somebody told me about that, so I was aware. Listen, I think he had been a Clipper for a long time and had a lot of great years as a Clipper. So I think there probably was the thought process is this is my last destination. Certainly Atlanta being Lou's home. I think that holds a special place in his heart. But again, you should ask him that. But again, everything I've ever heard about Lou is that he's the ultimate professional. And unfortunately in the NBA for these guys, we can get traded and you have to change teams. But he's been nothing but professional with us from the jump on this. So
appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Chris.
How close are Cam and Chris to returning?
So as you know, KD is on this trip. He's progressing to play against our guys the first of next week. I think the plan is Monday, assuming everything goes in a practice setting. And then assuming all that goes well, hopefully sometimes towards the end of this trip, he'll be back. Cam is still in a place where he's just non-impact. So he's a ways away, spot shooting and just doing all his rehab.
Kevin Taylor.
Hi, Travis. I know you said in the beginning that you didn't want to kind of mess up the roster, but could we be looking at some other moves maybe down the line to kind of bolster the roster, especially from a defensive perspective before the end of the season?
Well, so we have a full roster at this time, 15 with our two-ways. So, we'd have to release somebody in order to do that. As far as the defense, hopefully once we get Chris back, Chris is, one of the better perimeter defenders in the league. So I guess that would bolster our defense a little bit if we get him back on the court.
All right, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Thomas.
How are you, Travis?
Well, thank you.
Yes. As a GM, you're always looking to improve your team. You have a steady pulse on the team throughout the year. Do you ever feel any added pressure when the trade deadline is coming up to make a move?
No, as I mentioned, we went into this deadline really not anticipating doing much of anything. But like I said, as the week progressed, this deal came along where we felt like we could, maybe get a little extra scoring pop off the bench and also, pick up some future assets. So it just kind of made sense to us. But as I said, it wasn't something we were looking to do. That we're in a place where we have a very deep team and we like our team. So it wasn't a situation, there have been, like last year, by way of example, last year we made it very clear to everyone that, we had a bunch of expiring contracts and we had a first-round draft pick we were willing to move, and we needed a center. So we were very aggressive last year to go out and get a center, that turned into Clint. We weren't in that situation this year where we felt like we had to be aggressive to go address one particular area of need.
Sarah.
Hey, Travis. So obviously not to jinx anything, but you guys are getting a little healthier and now you add Lou. How much do you like the depth you guys have, now that you're in the second half and kind of down the stretch of the second half?
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be really important. As you guys all know, we're playing games every other day. That it's going to be taxing on all these guys. So having the ability to, maybe rest a guy here or there, or play a guy less minutes one game as opposed to the next is going to be real important. And to prevent little bumps and bruises to turning into big injuries. So I think that's one of the things we set out to do in the beginning of this was with this season just being compacted was to have as much depth as possible, on top of all the COVID stuff, which, knock on wood, we've been able to avoid. Our guys have been doing a great job following all the protocols.
Another question from Paul Gant.
Travis, were you reluctant to move Rondo because of the success he's had in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we were reluctant to do it because we valued what he brought to us, both on and off the court. At the beginning of the season, he wasn't quite healthy. You guys know that he kind of battled some nagging injuries, and we just felt like he was starting to get his legs underneath him. So we were certainly hesitant to do that, and he was the biggest voice in our locker room too. All our guys respected him. He's a two-time NBA champion. So it gave us pause, but like I said, bringing in someone like Lou who has a ton of experience as well and is obviously extremely respected. But his game is just a little bit different, and we felt like that punch of scoring coming off could benefit us down the stretch here. And as I mentioned, obviously for about the 15th time, getting those picks, those always get me, man. I'm a softie when people start throwing picks at me.
Got just a few more. Back to Terrence Moore.
Travis, now that you guys are healthy, do you guys, from a management standpoint and an ownership standpoint, have you guys talked between yourselves as to what you expect, how far you expect this team to go into playoffs? And then I guess the second part would be, how far do you expect this team to go?
Well, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. As I mentioned, from day one, let's have these games at the end of the season be important games. And we feel like obviously with a little over 2 months to go, every game matters. I mean, you guys look at the standings. You can go from 4th to 11th in about a week with a good week or a bad week. So, we're excited to be where we are. We feel like we're positioned well to get into the expanded playoff format. And once we get there, we're just excited that our guys are going to have the ability to experience what the difference is between, regular season basketball and playoff basketball.
Two more. Sarah Spencer.
Travis, I know you mentioned kind of the scoring pop Lou brings. What do you like about his ability to create? I think you touched a little bit on pick and roll earlier.
Yeah, no, he's a very good pick and roll. I mean, as you guys, remember, last year, one of the most, I haven't moved in a while. My lights turned off. One of the most dynamic duos in the league the last couple of years has been, Lou and Montrez out in LA, with their pick and roll game. That was a big part of their success. So obviously, playing with John, playing with Clint, playing with Big O, playing with Gallo, Lou and Gallo obviously played together in LA as well. So we feel like, he's going to be able to take advantage of those situations, whether it's, getting those other guys open for shots or getting himself obviously open for shots.
And one more from Kevin Taylor.
All right, thanks. Travis, just curious, did you talk to Coach McMillan first before making the deal? And if so, what were his thoughts?
Oh yeah, obviously we talk to the coaches before we make any decision on the roster, and certainly take their input and how they feel about the situation. I think he saw the same things we saw. None of us were looking to move Rondo. We value what Rondo brought to the team, but being able to add that scoring pop, was something that he saw as advantageous as well.
All right, thank you.